Hi everyone, my name is Megan Eileen with the Shoppe Designs. We sell design templates, actions, textures, and marketing tools for photographers. And today I am going to show you how to use some of our actions and textures editing your images. This is a photo of my baby girl on a bench, and there's some issues with it that, it's fine, but there's some issues with it that I would like to change. And this is the edit that we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to turn it into look like this. It has a bit of a vintage texture to it. Her skin is brightened up a bit, and even the light is evened out across her face a little bit. See, this side is darker, and now it's a lot more even. And so these are some of the things that we're going to do today. So first thing you want to do is start with your actions palette over here. This little play button. If you can't find it, you can also go to Window, Actions, and that'll open up the Actions palette as well. I have all of my actions loaded here already. If you need some help loading actions into Photoshop, we do have some tutorials on our site about that too, and it's very simple. It might look a little different for you if you're in a different version of Photoshop. I am in CS6. So first thing I usually like to do when I start with actions is just kind of start playing around and playing things and seeing what happens. I know my actions pretty well, but if you're new to them, you can just kind of hit play and see, oh, okay, let's see what that does, and then go back to the background layer and, play another one, turn that off, and if it starts to get too much over here, you can just delete the hidden layers and start over again, and maybe try a black and white one, and see, do I like it better in black and white, or let's see, maybe we'll try, let's just want Carnival black and white, and you can kind of see if you like that, if you turn it off, turn it back on, and just kind of see. So that's how I start to play with actions. Especially when I have some new ones that I'm working with. But today, okay, so what we want to do, the first action that I want to play is called Jane, and it is from our Memento set. By the way, I'm using a hotkey. I have Command M set as my play button, but you can hit this little play button here to play your actions. But it's faster for me to hit Command M, so I set that up, and it's really easy to do. So I played Jane here. There's a couple things going on here. It's a little too intense for me on this image. So what I'm going to do is take this down to about 50%, and see, that's much better. It kind of just sharpens it just enough, and gives it a little bit of that illustrative quality without looking like it's too much. And then the next one I want to do is, I think I'm going to do Peas and Cream. Okay, and again, it's really blue, so I think I'm going to take this down about 42% or so. And then, let's see, the next one I think I'm going to do for this is Milk. This is one of my favorites from the Nostalgia set, which is my first set of actions, and I actually love Milk. So this, I'm going to put Milk at around 74% or so. Let's see. And you can kind of play with these. You can play with the order of them too, and it actually makes a bit of a difference if you kind of, put one on top of the other, because whatever is above the layer below it is going to affect it. So inside each of these folders is a bunch of layers of things that I've done to the photo and recorded. That's what the actions do. And so you can, if you know what you're doing, you can get in here and adjust these and play with each individual layer. But you can also just play with the opacity of the entire folder. I've tried to make it easy for you that way. You can kind of turn them off, turn them back on, see what happens. So I really like Milk on this because I feel like it kind of just softens up her skin a lot and gives the light over here kind of a nice quality. So, so the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to put the texture on it, because of the fact that there's a lot of texture already in this photo around the background area and stuff like that. I really think that a texture would work well in this photo. It has a lot of environment, and which is the way I like to shoot, and it already has texture, so I'm pretty much just going to enhance that. So I'm going to bridge here. This is the Nostalgia Textures set. Also one of my favorites, my first and one of my favorites. And Old Painting is one of my favorite textures, and I'm going to open that up in Photoshop. You can see it up close. It basically looks like an old painting, like it's canvas with kind of textured paint on top of it, and it really gives a nice quality, I feel like, to the images. So an easy way to kind of do it is just to copy it and paste it. I just do Command A, Command C, and Command V. That's fine. Alright, so see how it's below these layers here? So it's being affected by all the layers above it. So I'm going to drag it up to the top, and then we're just going to turn it. If you hold down Shift while you do that, then it will kind of snap right to being horizontal, which makes it a lot easier. Okay, so now we have our texture layer in here on top of everything else, and as you can see, it's covering it up entirely. This right here is your layer properties that you can kind of play with and see what works. It's going to change how the layer functions on top of the other layer. There's a couple ones that work really well with photos. Overlay is one. With this photo, it's way too intense. What overlay does kind of is it increases the contrast, and it really intensifies the color. And soft light is mainly the one that I use on textures. It gives just enough texture to it. You can kind of see, but it doesn't really overpower the image. You can also use multiply, which makes it a lot darker. This does work on some images, definitely not on this one, obviously. And then there's some that work on very specific images, like screen can work on certain images. It doesn't work on this one. So we're going to do soft light on this. Now before we do that, though, we want to go back to normal. And a lot of people ask about how you get the texture off of the skin when you're editing like this. The best way to do that, I find, so you're going to go to your little eyedropper over here. We're going to have this layer on normal, and you're just going to kind of select a color somewhere around where your subject's face is. See, so now it's selected this color over here in my little colors box. So then we're going to go and put it on our soft light, which is what we had before. So you want to really kind of zoom in at this point. Okay, so you can see where the texture is on her skin. Make sure you're on your texture layer. And now we're going to go to our brush tool here, and we're going to select a brush. I have many brushes. We are going to select a brush that is very fuzzy. So you see the hardness here? You want that to be all the way down for this. And this is the size. So we're going to start, you can see the size of the circle when you bring it over on top of the image. We're going to start with, something that is sort of medium size, that you want to have enough control over what you're doing. So I'm going to start with this size at about 98 pixels. And here's your opacity here. I'm going to start at about 100% because I really want to get all of that texture off. So then you're just going to really start to paint over her skin. And you don't want to get too close to the edge, because the soft edge here that we did is going to kind of expand out a little bit. So you really don't want to get too close to the edge. Now I like to only kind of go into the hair a little bit. I think that the hair is something that helps it be able to sort of blend in with the background. You don't want it to have this you just don't want her to not feel like she's part of her environment. So I'm just kind of lightly painting, and then I actually use my bracket keys to shrink down the size of the brush while I'm painting, because that's faster. So you can go up or down and increase or decrease in size the brush with your bracket keys. It's faster. Okay, so I'm just painting over her skin. Now what we're doing here is, I'm going to show you what we're doing by changing this back to normal. So what we're doing is really kind of painting out the texture, but you're keeping the color because we selected that color here. So you're basically kind of just painting. And this way you can sort of see what you've done too, but you're just painting out the texture. And then when we go back to the soft light, then it just sort of disappears and it just kind of smooths everything out. So then the next thing that you want to do is maybe take the opacity down to about 45% or somewhere around there. And I'm just going to kind of go closer to the edge now, just because I'm sort of blending her in with her background. So, and you can do some other areas, maybe, you know, do a little bit in her hair at this point, so that, you know, you kind of just blend it in. If anybody's done any kind of painting or anything, it's really just kind of like that. It's just blending. And I like to leave it on her clothes. I mean, you can kind of take it down maybe to 20% and you know, do a little on her clothes just to get some of it off. But again, I like to have her feel like she's part of the picture and part of the background. You don't want her to not have any texture on her at all. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom out and so there we go. That's pretty much the edit right there. So you can see, I'll turn this off and on so you can see what the texture does. What the texture does is it's warmed it up quite a bit. If it's warmed it up too much for you, you can go to Image Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and you can take down the saturation a bit. So you can see that's a lot cooler now. I like the warmth of it. I mean, I think maybe I could take it down a touch, maybe right about there. But I do like the warmth that it gives it because it gives a nice quality to the brick and the light over here. So you can kind of turn it off and on and see what that's done and see what each of the actions do. Jane really sharpens that up quite a bit and gives it that illustrative quality. So here's all our layers. Now when you're done, you're going to go to Layer. Here's my flatten image. I always use a smart key. There it is. I always use a hotkey for that too. And then once you do that, then you've got your flattened background over here, and you can save it as a JPEG and send it to print. So I would always save the layers. Go back to my history. I would save it out as a PSD just in case, you know, you've done all that work. You really want to just change one little thing. So make sure you save it as both. But anyway, so that is how we go from this to this. And I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. You can visit us at theshopdesigns.com, and thank you. Have a great day.